Hi, my name's Mike Deming, and I'm going to tell you how to go green via the government green grants. I'm going to talk about why do it, grants that are available, what about hydrogen, how to achieve carbon net zero, what are the benefits, how to apply, pros and cons, where to get help, and question and answers. So why bother? Basically, we need to stop burning fossil fuel to stop climate change. Why reduce CO2 or carbon dioxide? Well, hopefully you'll understand the causes of climate change, which is basically the sun's heat getting trapped in the atmosphere by increasing levels of carbon dioxide. So here is some data that I got from ftp.isa.org from a guy that did some research, and he is estimating that households produce about 3 to just shy of 7 tons of CO2 emissions a year. But the problem with this is basically that it's invisible, and because it's invisible, people aren't really driven to do anything about it. This is where I live, and you can see this is a cold winter's day, and on the edge of these roofs you can see people are using their gas boilers, which is producing heat but also carbon dioxide, and it's fairly invisible, and it's just not noticed. So really it would be really good if you could have the ability to see this. So here is a 1-minute video that shows you what carbon dioxide production looks like. So here it is. So what are the effects of climate change locally? I live in Northumberland, and these are some of the effects as I see them. So in 2011, due to heavy winds, a tree fell, killing a young woman. In 2020, August, an intercity train near Stonehaven hit a landslip, which was caused by heavy rain, and this caused fatalities. And then more recently, on the 19th of January, there were severe flood warnings and heavy rain for England. And basically, slight changes in climate or ocean temperatures affect global rainfall patterns. And certainly in the last 5 years, from 2020 going backwards, we've certainly seen an increase in heavy rainfall. So what green grants are available? So there's two. There is the domestic RHI renewable heat incentive, and that is a grant up to 13,000, which will cover biomass boilers, solar water heating, and certain heat pumps. And there is a second grant, which is the Green Homes grant, and this allows you to make further energy improvements to your home. And I include the 2 links to their websites below. For the Green Grant, there's a maximum of £5,000. It's actually £10,000 if you're on benefit. This is organised into 2 measures. Firstly, you need to install a primary measure, which will either be insulation or a low carbon heat solution, which was mentioned before in terms of a heat pump, biomass boiler, or solar heating. And then from that, you can install secondary measures such as double glazing and doors and heating controls and insulation. Basically, if you join the scheme and you follow its rules, then you actually get the money back over 7 years. That's certainly for the renewable heat incentive, which is up to 13,000. The Green Grant, 5,000, is basically a voucher to that amount. And one of the other considerations in terms of switching your heating is hydrogen heating is certainly an option. So I've got some thoughts around it here. Effectively, it's going to take too long. The Guardian ran an article indicating it would take something like 700 years to reach low carbon heating under the current plans. They're an alternative, but it would be too long in terms of how long it would take to roll this out. And really, the CO2 reductions are really needed in this decade. The other issue is with hydrogen, although it's clean, one of the issues is the production, and under some plans are looking to create the hydrogen from the gas that we have, and that means that actually it would actually create, by taking hydrogen from gas, this would actually also create carbon dioxide, which will be captured at source, but there's an issue around how would that be managed. Now, I do know that Northern Gas networks are looking to run some trials in Leeds, and this is their initial plan for the rollout of hydrogen if it's successful. And you can see that it's got quite a long timeline from 2030 to 2050 in terms of its rollout. So it's to me it's too slow to make an impact, and there's an issue with the carbon dioxide in the production of hydrogen. How is that captured? How is that managed? So the main part of the talk is achieving carbon net zero by switching to an air source heat pump. So certainly gas boilers are going extinct in 3 years' time in 2025. Builders won't be able to install it into new houses, and also gas will be phased out by 2035. So there is a short 4-minute video that really does well to explain what an air source heat pump is all about.
There's more than 27 million homes in Britain, each one using energy all day, every day. Nearly 3/4 of that energy is used for space and water heating. As a country, we spend £13.5 billion a year on heating our homes. That's a huge amount of energy. With the rising cost of fossil fuels like oil and gas, it's no wonder millions of families are looking to reduce their heating and hot water bills. But more worryingly, rising fuel bills are pushing some households into fuel poverty. The technologies we've used for years also produce too much carbon dioxide, which is something the UK government want to change to help us meet our climate change targets. We simply can't keep using oil and gas indefinitely. We have to switch to clean, renewable energy sources.
Now, the good news is there's proven technology already being used in thousands of properties throughout the UK. It's a renewable, super efficient and affordable solution, but it's one that you might not have heard of. It's called an air source heat pump, and I'm here at a property near Milton Keynes to take a look at the latest EcoDan design from Mitsubishi Electric. So this is it, the EcoDan air source heat pump. But what is it? Well, I can tell you, you've been using the technology for years in your fridge, only this works in reverse. EcoDan sits outside in the garden or down the side of your property and just needs electricity and water connections to work. It takes free renewable heat energy from the air and upgrades this to provide all the hot water and heating your property needs, even when it's freezing cold and there's snow on the ground. EcoDan is designed specifically for UK homes and works at temperatures as low as -25 degrees Celsius. This ultra-quiet model can be installed under UK permitted development regulations, and because of its low sound output, it can be positioned virtually anywhere in a garden, making it neighbour-friendly. So what makes air source heat pumps so good? Well, it's all about energy efficiency. For every 1 kilowatt of electricity it uses, it can create over 3 kilowatts of heat energy, making it 300% efficient. This is called coefficient of performance, or COP for short. Compare this to oil and gas, which at best can only achieve a 90% efficiency, and you can see just how efficient air source heat pumps really are. Unlike other heating systems that give big pulses of heat into your property, the EcoDan maintains a constant ambient temperature throughout your home, so it's always cosy and warm. This makes it ideal to use with any type of heating system, such as underfloor heating or traditional radiators. Let's have a look at the hot water cylinder. Now, just like conventional heating systems, EcoDan works with a cylinder that distributes the hot water throughout the house. It can be controlled by wall-mounted displays, handheld remote controllers, or even via an app on your smartphone. Air source heat pumps are classed as a renewable technology, so they qualify for payments from the Renewable Heat Incentive, the UK government's financial incentive to promote renewable heat. For an average 4-bed semi, you could expect to get back over £7,000 over a 7-year period, so it virtually pays for itself. Mitsubishi also offer an optional metering and monitoring service package, increasing payments by over £1,500 over the term of the RHI, giving a total income of £8,500. Accredited EcoDan installers have fitted thousands of EcoDans in the UK over the last 10 years, so it's a tried and tested technology that's clean, efficient and low maintenance. The great thing about this technology is that it can also work in conjunction with other renewable energy solutions, like the solar panels behind me. So if you're using oil or LPG to heat your home, the benefits of installing an air source heat pump really do stack up. You can add an EcoDan, or even better, replace your current heating with one. There's no smell, no risk of oil theft, no price volatility or inconsistency of supply. It's a clean, low maintenance proven technology, and with the government's renewable heat incentive payments, it will virtually pay for itself. You can save money on your heating bills while reducing your carbon emissions too. But more than that, you'll be future-proofing your heating for generations to come.
So, now that you've seen the video, air source heat pumps. So basically the air source heat pump just needs electricity, water, sits outside, there's a hot water tank. It uses a gas called R32, which has a boiling point of -51 degrees C. Effectively, that is basically used to make it basically extract heat out of the outside air. Can work up to -25 degrees, and it has a very low sound output. Yes, it's 300% efficient. So when you compare that to the best of a gas boiler, it's 3 times more efficient than a boiler. So effectively, for 1 kilowatt you put into it, it generates 3 kilowatt of energy in terms of heat. So what are the benefits? It can reduce your heating and water bills. You'll have 0 CO2 emissions, and if you use a green energy supplier, then certainly that will ensure that your electricity that you're using is green also. It's paid for by the government, so paid back, so you get the money back over 7 years. It's renewable, and it's really efficient. So how to apply. This is the Ofgem website, which is running the heat incentive, and the applications for your to get your money back is done through this website. Some simple steps you kind of need to follow through. So basically, you need to check by getting some quotes to make sure that the renewable technology you plan to use, air source heat pump, biomass, ground source, and solar thermal, is suitable for your property. So just verify that with a supplier, and they'll give you a quote. Read the essential guide. So just read the guide. There's also, it talks about do you need metering, and I have opted for metering. And this is basically that the data is collected about your energy use, the times that your heating's coming on, how much energy you are using, and this is collected and then helps electricity providers plan energy flows across the country. So when you get paid something like £1,600 if you allow your data to be collected. Make sure you do your research. Make sure you get your quotes from MCS certified installers. Make sure they've got this certification, MCS. Make sure your product that the installer is going to install is eligible, and you can check that on the Ofgem website. Then arrange to get your system installed. For my switch from gas boiler to Airsource heat pump, it was 2 days. Additional meters may be installed if you're going to go for the metering option. Then make sure you get all your paperwork for your application, and then basically apply. Now, some installers will actually help you in this process. So ask your installer, will they help you in the application? When you do contact a supplier and you get a quote, make sure the quote mentions the property and sizes, the output, the SCOP, which is an efficiency measure, the hot water cylinder in its location, does it need brackets, does it need to be mounted or not mounted. You also get radiators in the swap over, so that's all paid for under the scheme. So you will, in most likelihood, need radiators to replace, and that's really because the air source heat pump runs at a lower temperature, so you need a bigger radiator to emit the same amount of heat. And they also look at the location and output just to make sure everything's going to work properly. Make sure they quote your payments back, the exact amount they can quote that. MSP is the metering payment, so if you're going to go for the metering, make sure they quote for that, and we'll provide that equipment. And then make sure they've given you some they've calculated your savings and take into account your current electricity and gas prices and efficiencies, and then also to give you some confidence in the supplier, make sure that they've got an MCS certification, a trust mark if they've gone for that, and another IWA, which is a method of paying you your money back should they go bust. Just a bit more, so MCS certification, which is what you should check. Make sure that the installer installs equipment to a high standard, and IWA is a deposit protection and insurance guarantee. You might also want to check Companies House on the internet for the company and look up some of the records there, and just go through the company website to give you confidence in that installer. Additionally, on top of some of those checks, I actually went to mcscertified.com and www.iwa.biz. I rang them with the certificate, with the reference numbers that the suppliers had given me, and just asked them to confirm that they did exist and they did have the certifications. And again, that gives you confidence that the reference numbers that they're quoting for these certifications are actually valid. So pros and cons, in my experience of switching from gas to an air source heat pump. Yeah, certainly zero CO2. I've got a schedule to get my money back over 7 years. It did force me to look at some installation areas that I hadn't addressed. We had double glazing on one side of the house, but not on the other, so I made sure there were 2 more windows. We fitted double glazing, and then there were a couple of, just actually one door that I needed to sort out, which is a back door, which had a draft. So you do need to make sure that you've sorted out any drafts in your house prior to installation. Yes, we had to have a hot water tank fitted, and also just make sure that we sort of schedule the timing to make sure there's enough hot water in the tank. Be wary of the radiators. I did think that the radiators weren't working, but they are. They just work at lower heat. So they work between 40 and 45 degrees C rather than 60 to 80 with that a gas boiler generates. So you will feel a slight difference. In terms of the radiator, changeover radiators are quite easy to change over because they're literally hanging on the wall, and they just come in and disconnect the existing ones and hang new ones. The heating is not instant. It's more of a kind of so in the morning we turn the heating comes on and the house will get to temperature, and then the house will slowly come out of temperature. So you can't blast it like you can do with a gas boiler. It takes about an hour or just over to get the house to temperature. And then also you do need somewhere to sit the outside unit, which is where the air source heat pump will sit. Just in terms of, if you don't have the money and you need to borrow it, I've just gone to the post office loan website and looked at borrowing something like 13,500 over 7 years, and my payback would be that I'd have to pay that back in monthly installments of 177, and the interest rate is relatively low. So if I had to borrow this money, what does that look like in terms of the payback? So if I put that all together, my current paybacks, I'm getting £440 per quarter from Ofgem for my air source heat pump, and then with my loan, if I went for the post office loan to pay for it, I would have paid up 532. So in effect, I would only be down slightly, £91 per quarter. However, I would be making savings, so that's probably actually zero. And when you equate that down, it's actually £30 per month that I'd have to make per contribution. But if I'm making savings, that would be zero. And for that amount of money, where you've actually paid for, you've got all the money back over 7 years, that's a reasonable price to pay to go carbon free. So what about more help in terms of doing this? So I would recommend that you get lots of quotes from as many suppliers as you can, maybe between 10, 20, 30 if you could. One website to use is this one, renewableenergyhub.co.uk. You can search for installers on that website. You can also search on Simply Energy Advice, installer search, and that provides some more others. And also you can also use Trustmark, which is a government website where the suppliers have to gain this Trustmark accreditation, and then they can be listed on the website. So use those three to contact suppliers. And lastly, 3 things. By doing this, you can save the planet. It's a win-win because you kind of get the money back, and you can save money on your heating bills. And then get plenty of quotes. I mean, you don't have to proceed, but if you've got lots of quotes, then you have to compare and obviously choose the best supplier. I like this photo, and basically Greta Thunberg, and she talks a lot about adults talk about climate change, so don't do anything. And for this being a no-brainer, I would thoroughly recommend switching. And that's it. I'll leave my email in the bottom if you've got any more questions, and I'll try and answer them.